elsewhere. So I say to you, Joe Solecki, what is the deal? Are we ending the beef now? Or are we good? Where are we?
Oh, there's no beef. Like I said, I was left on red. You said I got dibs in the first interview. I said you let me know when, and then you left me alone for like 2 weeks. So
First of all, didn't
yeah.
leave you on red. I'm far too
No, I
polite.
know there was some banter,
I'm pretty sure
no,
I put at
I
least
was available.
hearts.
I was ready to go. Now we're behind the paywall early. I think I pledged two pictures of my feet for the paying members for you. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm gonna
Yep.
be in a heel hook, pictures of my feet. So
Oh, God.
we're all good. I donated to the cause. We're good. This is great. We're ready to go.
Thank you. What is up, ladies and gents? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, Raph Esparza, coming to you with another great installment of Grappling Hour. I hope that you guys are doing well. I'm doing great. We got a great guest, but before we get to him, because you know what? He made me wait. So he can wait a few seconds while I do this little intro. We'll get to that in a second. But I want to tell you guys, if you are not members of the Grappling Hour community, we would hope that you go become a member, become a subscriber. Check us out at HY.PAGE/Grappling Hour. Not only will you get the ability to see these interviews 30 days before anybody else, but you can also get premium access, which means you get new content, new episodes, and the type of stuff that's only available to people who pay. And today we're doing a very, very interesting segment. We're actually going to do an additional segment with this gentleman here in regards to a very, very prominent topic here in the BJJ community. And I guess by and large, his other community that he's a part of, because he's an amazing UFC fighter. He's an amazing MMA fighter. Won his last fight via rear naked choke. It was great. Listen, his opponent did go to sleep, and he was asked a question that I will ask him about here because I thought that was a very strange question in a post-presser, but that's not the point. I guess what I'm alluding to here is the fact that we don't have beef because he did show up today, but he showed up elsewhere first. And I had specifically asked this man, I said, no. Only if Ariel calls do I say you can go on that one. But instead, I saw this man talking with other hosts, and you know how that makes me feel. You know how it makes me feel when I'm sitting here working diligently on new episodes, and I see this man, Joe Solecki, the organizer of one all-in grappling tournament, working his butt off all the way over there in one of the Carolinas, don't even know which one, and giving you guys premium jiu-jitsu content so that you can go out there and get competition reps in. And instead, I see him showing up elsewhere. So I say to you, Joe Solecki, what is the deal? Are we ending the beef now? Or are we good? Where are we?
Oh, there's no beef. Like I said, I was left on red. You said I got dibs in the first interview. I said you let me know when, and then you left me alone for like 2 weeks. So
first of all, didn't leave you on red. I'm far too.
No,
polite.
I know there was some banter, but
I'm pretty sure I put at least hearts.
I was ready to go, but it's better because now we get to talk when the dust settles. I'm not like in that plane. I've been in a fog for like a month. I'm gonna be straight. I've been in a brain fog where I was like, is this CTE or is this just busyness? But it's back, and now we're behind the paywall early. I think I pledged two pictures of my feet for the paying members for you.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm gonna be in a heel hook, pictures of my feet. So
oh, God.
We're all good. I donated to the cause. We're good. This is great. We're ready to go.
Thank you. It's very funny to me because we don't have a lot of currency in this world, and it is hard because I have had guests in the past who they have told me, and I swear to God this has happened, where I go, all right, me first, and they're like, absolutely. And it has come to the fact where they go, hey, Ariel or Joe Rogan is called. I'm so sorry. And I go, I can't beat that. So I understand there is a little bit of a go do your thing. It's more so that I think what happened is I became a human. And I said, you know what? This man has to put together a grappling tournament. And he was maybe not smart in his planning, where he put a grappling event that he's in charge of just a couple weeks after he has to do some fun, which is his business. which is the best job in the world as per you. So I tried to give you that space so that you could go do that. And then I said, you know what? Let me circle back. Oh, he's appeared on a show.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, well, to be fair, a lot of it's management,
Yeah, no,
but,
that's fair.
yeah.
That's
So,
fair.
yeah, and, it is what it is. But yes, it was a chaotic. The last month has been a blur, maybe like even more than that. But, yeah, I kept texting everybody last week when I was getting ready for the event. And I was like, on this episode of Joe Bites Off Way More Than He Can Chew, this is happening or whatever's happening. And, yeah, we survived. We're here. So,
So why did you put this event 3 weeks after your fight?
Because I want to get back to training. I mean, I'm training the whole time, but I want to get back to training and just focusing on the goal. So it wasn't 3 weeks; it was 4 weeks.
Okay.
And then the fight got moved, and you're like, "Oh, that's tight. Okay, a month was good." Because last time it was 8 weeks, and that was too much. It was too much lingering. I want to get on with my life. So, yeah, it was. It ended up being less than a month. So I was on the plane ride home, and I splurged for the Wi-Fi because we got the bonus, and I was answering emails and Instagram messages for the All In. I was matchmaking, and people were messaging me like, "Please tell Joe congratulations." Like, oh, yeah, we'll definitely get on that. We'll let him know. Meanwhile, it's me. I'm a one-man show, so I have a lot of help come competition day, but like in the planning and all that, it's me. So yeah, it was a lot. It's been a blur. It's been a blur these last 3 weeks, especially.
So when you do put these things together and you see that you're on limited time, and then you've also got to budget in family time, how does that all compound? Because to me, I've run tournaments in the past, and your time gets sucked up, and it's very difficult to explain. And I'm sure your wife, she's a gamer, she knows this sort of life that you are leading. But then I'm sure the inevitable question is, but why do you have to do this? And why do you have to do this like the week after and the week after and the week after?
Yeah, I feel like I'm constantly trying to find my wife's breaking point, and she just doesn't have one. For this, I'm like, hey, we're gonna do this, and now we're gonna do this, and then, you know, but I think I posted it on a picture of us from the tournament. And I was like, yeah, well, to be fair, on date number 2, I told her I was going to the UFC, and I had never had an amateur fight, so she just gets sucked into this stuff with me, and she helps do it too. But here's the thing: is like we know, uh, this is the time to hit the gas because a lot of it is the goal is our one child is only 2 and the other one's still in the womb. So now's the time to hit the gas and capitalize on a couple things and try to, with the goal of her being able to stay home with our kids. So she sees that picture too. And so she's all about it. She's like, "Oh, hustle. It's fine. Like, and I'll do whatever I can too." So that way, because it's just, I don't know, if you have kids in daycare and stuff, people are listening to, but it's expensive, man. And it's not worth the squeeze. Like, they're not doing anything crazy for those 2 mortgages a month you're paying. So, it's one of those things where it's like, all right, time's ticking. We're having our second child, so I want her to be able to spend a lot more time home. And then, my job's flexible too, of course. So, hitting that gas, and trying to figure out even now, like with the baby on the way, are we going to have another fight or do I want to plan another tournament? So, yeah, it's just, it's better to be busy all at one time for me and then have that downtime where I can just get better and, download new data for the next fight camp and so on and so forth than to, have this thing looming. I'm so bad with patience and like, okay, I'm going to come home, have a little downtime, then get busy again, then have down. I'm just going to get through it. We're just going to knock this out. So, yeah, it was all great. Everything worked out. Very little sleep, but we're here, so yeah, it's been great.
Let's go back to your wife here for a second because I realize I made a mistake. Now, one of the hard parts about doing a bet and losing a bet is that you can never tell anybody if you are fulfilling the bet what the purpose of the bet is. So when I had you fulfill the part of your bet that was saying, "I love The Bachelor," because at the time you did, you qualified it when you reposted it as you'd be like, no, I don't love this trash anymore. Which, by the way, nice save of face. But the hard part about this is that I was sitting there and I thought, like, he should get to qualify this, but he's resharing it, so I'm not going to complain. I did add you as a co-author. And one fun fact about these things, you add somebody as a co-author, you don't get to do another one. So when you didn't accept the co-authorship, I was sitting there and I go, I could understand why. I could understand why. But you know what? I made a mistake. I should not have put you as a co-author. I should have put your wife as a co-author. And
Yeah,
here's
she
why.
would have. Oh my gosh, she would have been ecstatic.
Because this poor woman is put on the internet every single day when she cries. And then to make things even more complicated, when you do that and you go into these weird, like, oh man, she's crying. Oh no, we got a bonus. Now she's crying again. And you go, okay, good job, Joe. Then I heard you as a maniac in the background of that post presser at your fight being like, oh, no, you got to understand. My daughter, she's got my awareness. She's got this, but she's a psycho like my wife. And I'm like, oh my God, Joe, when you say that you're always pushing her to that limit, I hear it and I see it. So I guess my question is here, when she saw that, did she have any reaction? Because I'm sure she may have seen a little bit of it, but was she also in the space of like, we're beyond the bachelor?
Oh no, she was sitting right there. She was in the press. She found her way backstage. That's what I'm saying. She's nuts. Like she's nuts. My wife is nuts. Like she's married to me. Of course she's nuts. You know, in the best ways possible. But she's nuts. I'm nuts. You know, but just in a different way. But no, she was sitting right there, like nodding, like yep. Because she'll say she's like, oh, that little girl is me. I'm like, oh yeah, I know. She is. Casey is the man. She is the best. She's nuts for sure in the best ways. Like, hey, you know, we're living in Myrtle Beach at the time. Hey, we got to move to Wilmington. Like that's the only way I see fit. Okay, tell me when. You're like, what? Okay, hey, I can't pay the bill. Oh, okay, no problem. Like, really? Like, hey, I just got knocked out. Do you think I should quit? No, you shouldn't quit. Keep going. You're like, okay, clearly you're delusional. Like something's wrong with you. You know. But hey, she does it to herself too because then ESPN Plus puts the camera on her and then she's crying. She's hanging herself out to dry. So even now, I mean, it's just it's harder to capture her not crying. Honestly, it's tough.
Don't compare those two. Don't compare the fact that you put her crying in your home for your millions or thousands, whatever, but your thousands of people who are following you, because I see that too. And the worst is when she looks at you like, oh, it's already going up. Shut up. Okay, fine.
I got
And then,
one the other night. It was I started filming her, and she even looked. Even I was like, I felt the sympathy, and I was like, you know what? Not like this. I'm not gonna do this one. It was a hard cry. Like it was a sob. It was a sob. But I was like, I can't do this to her. And she's like, oh, what do you want me to do? I'm happy. And I was like, nope. Not, it was our anniversary. I said, I'm not this one. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it.
oh,
I
so
said,
on your
I got
anniversary, that's when you drew the line?
That's where I drew the line. That's where I drew the line. I made her a slideshow of our relationship to the song that she liked. It kind of matched up to what was going on in our life. And then I got her when we got engaged, I was fighting at CFFC and didn't exactly have the money for even a very decent engagement ring. So for our 5-year, I got her a new ring. And oh man, she sobbed. She sobbed. And she sobbed. It made the bonus sobbing look like, child's play. And I filmed her and I was like, you know what? I can't do this to her. Not like this. This is a nice moment.
I'm so glad that you now reached your own breaking point of like, whoa, that's a little bit too much, Joe. You got to tone it down. Because I was thinking in my head, when you started equating it, of being like, they put an ESPN camera on and she's sobbing. And I go, it is not the same. I guarantee you, my wife is pretty good at keeping her stuff together. But if Uncle Dana was like, yeah, you got 50K, she would be in the background being like, this is so great. He's going to buy me all the best things today. And if he doesn't, I will kill him. So,
yeah. She steals the show. I mean, it really, dude, someone said the other day, they're like, I have never seen a fighter's wife get more attention on camera. Like, maybe like a champion. You know what I mean? Like, they're panning to her in the crowd. She's crying. She's doing like, they're like, it's unbelievable. I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. Like, she always, even on the Contender Series, it was all about her. And it should be. She's the main driving factor in all this. So, yeah, it's awesome. It's been great.
it's all good.
You know,
I just love the fact that at a certain point, her fame is going to eclipse yours. So people are going to be more interested in seeing her post fight. They're going to like, after you get this next win, they're going to hug you and be like, that's great. Where's your wife?
yeah. It would be a much more colorful interview for sure. If I could just tag her in, it would be way easier for I may have a lot more fans.
So let's get down to, I guess, this past win, because I guess we can talk about it now. Now that you've gone on other shows and you've talked about it, and that's fine. I'm not hurt or Aggravated by it. I want to ask this because, again, one thing that I saw that was a little bit not concerning, but it was more so just, damn, dude, I was really excited to see you get back in there and fight. They switch your opponent. What goes through your head? What is it exactly told to you, and how does that get presented to you?
A text. Hey, Saint Denis is out. I'm reading on Twitter, but I haven't heard from Sean, and that was it. And it was like, okay. And then there was never like any like follow up really. And then he tagged me in a post, Saint Denis, very respectful, that he had an ankle injury and that he would be better to go in 6 weeks, which was not the case. He ended up having surgery. And that was it. And that was like 12 days out. I'm like, okay, like business as usual. We'll get another opponent. And then a couple days goes by and more days goes by. And I'm like, oh, this is not the usual like opponent's hurt, change of opponent, because now it's Monday of fight week. And I've heard nothing, you know? And then it got to the point where I talked to my coach at like maybe 5 o'clock on Monday. You know, I know we're on the East Coast and everything happening for the UFC is West Coast time, but still, it's kind of close to getting on an airplane to go have to fight someone to know if they have medicals. Or my whole thing was we were so diligent this entire camp with all the prep. I'm not getting on a plane and coming to Vegas and then having to turn back around, get jet lag, because it's always the way home for me. That's terrible. And have to continue another week or two of camp and come back, you know? So we at 5 o'clock, we pretty much talked to my coach. Was like, all right, we're not going. Like, there's no opponent, there's no nothing. So I called my manager, and he's like, well, Sean said he would have something today. I'm like, okay, man. I said, I'm going to call you in 90 minutes, and then that's going to be our cutoff time. He's like, okay. And then I ended up getting busy, and we live in the sticks, so our phone service is terrible. I can make a quick call, but I definitely can't hang on the line. I'll drop the call immediately. And our internet's even worse. It's satellite internet, like on an airplane. It's terrible, which is why I'm in the car doing this interview in town. But so I end up like having to put my daughter down that night for bed and everything. And it ends up being like a couple hours that go by. And then it's like 9:15, 9:30 our time. And he texts like, what do you think about Carl Deaton? And I'm like, it's so late in the game to be saying, what do you think about this guy? Does he have medicals? Are we like, I'm leaving in like 8 hours, you know? So at that point, my coach is asleep. Other coaches are like, I can't get a hold of anybody. And I'm like, yeah, man, but like, I really think like this would be better if we could just get on the next opening so we know we have a fight, you know? And he's like, okay, I'll ask Sean. And I said, he's like, well, what's the answer regardless? I said, well, look, like, I'll make the executive call and say we accept this fight under any terms, but I would much prefer it to be on the next opening so we can, you know, plan accordingly. I mean, the day was like every adrenaline dump you can imagine. And you compete, so you know what it's like to have that. And you go, okay, you know, I can compete under any circumstances, but this definitely is stacking the odds against me because now I've gone through the process of this, that, the other thing. And then I end up not hearing anything. I pack my bags. I'm like, all right, we're going. And then it's like midnight. And it was like, hey, February 25th. And I'm like, okay, I guess I got to get to Charlotte, which is 4 hours away where I did most of my camp. I'm like, I guess I got to get in the car and go to Charlotte tomorrow. So, yeah, it was just a continuation of what we did. And we go into camp and then go out and get the fight. But it was definitely the most unorthodox approach. Because, you know, you've seen it happen with main events that fall out and stuff, but that's a little different because of what's on the line. But I almost just figured, you know, I'm a prelim. So I figured we'd have a replacement. It would be a standard, you know, a couple days. You get the new name. You're like, okay, I'm watching Miller got a new opponent. They moved Carlston Harris to a card in March. And I'm like, all right, surely I'm going to get the next one. And then nothing. I'm like, man, like I am truly Milton from Office Space. Like they're just always forgetting, like, oh, you're still on we didn't get you an opponent? Oh, yeah. Oh, you've been cut for like a year. We didn't tell you. You're like, dude, you just keep taking my stapler, guys. Like, I just want a fair shake. Like, this is kind of my livelihood. This is the third fight of my second contract. Like, this is the renegotiation one. Like, this all is very, very important, you know? So it all worked out. It was just a roundabout way to get there. But yeah, it was definitely, it was ideal how it all ended up playing out, but it was not an ideal way to get there.
Understood. And I think the hard part that people may not always put into context is there are two different sides of this. There's the fighter side and the business side, and sometimes they don't necessarily coexist. So the part of you that's the fighter is like, yeah, let's do it. I don't mind a challenge. Let's do this. And then I'm sure there's probably the additional fun of sitting there going like, game plan, we can do this. That's fine. And the business side is, what sense does this make if I can't do this? It's not fair to my team. It's not fair to my family. It's not fair to me. And then how do I make this fair with a reasonable turnaround that my employer, my group, my UFC, is going to expect for me to fulfill my contract. So I understand all those things coming together. It can be very, very difficult. And yet in that time, you make a very, very reasonable adjustment to saying like, hey, how about we do it just a little bit later, prolongs it. You're still going to be in camp. You're still going to be good. It's just a little bit more of an extension. And then from that moment, how does then gaming planning go into that arena? Because again, it's nice to have a camp where you think a certain way all the way through, and then it changes on a dime, and then you just got to make adjustments from there.
Well, exactly. And I think a fighter should never have to be logical. That's the coach's jobs, the manager's jobs. But because of the circumstances, like it's nighttime, my coach is going to bed, he's got practices to run in the morning, can't get a hold of really anybody. It's me and my manager, but at the same time, he's done a great job. But for him, he has to keep a rapport with these people too, because, that's how the business works. So it ended up becoming me having to think for me, but also try to appease, the powers that be. And that is a very difficult spot to be in. But lucky for me is until the last couple of years, I've always had to think for myself anyway. And I'm kind of good at setting aside my ego and not feeling like a coward having to say like, this is what's better. Because bottom line, I know that what I do for a career is brave. I know that I'll fight anybody. I really will. But at the same time, I know it's smart for my family, and, I'm not going to sit in a tent under the overpass and look at my kids and be like, hey, dad was brave, like I need to pay the mortgage. I need to take care of my family and stay in this, organization for a long, long time. So it was one of those things where I kind of had to step outside of it and feel like a coward for a second, just for even suggesting it. But, you got to do what you got to do. You got to humble yourself. And the fact that they went for it is amazing in itself, because I know they don't like to be told what to do or even suggested. So it all worked out.
It's awesome to hear. And I like the fact that it does show some growth on your part, being a kid from Jersey and all, and being like, no, I need to be responsible, everybody. Yeah. No. Old Joe may have just taken this fight, but Family Joe, he got brain. He's going to stop and do it reversed on his time. So that's awesome, man. And it's hard because it is very funny, especially when you hear a narrative that says, oh, this guy's afraid of this guy. And your first thought is, but don't you guys fight? Like, how does that narrative go any further? Like, I would never in my mind as an interviewer go, well, Joe, clearly you were afraid of that last opponent. So how did it feel like to take this other fight where apparently you weren't afraid?
Yeah. And there's more to, people always say that. It's like, I'd actually be more afraid of the guy that I just fought, because there's more to lose. He has no wins in a big league. And, then what does that say about me if I lose to, but at the end of the day, it's all noise. We're all out there trying to be number one. So like, if people believe that, they're crazy. On the regional scene, is there fear? 100%. In the big leagues, is there fear? No, tough is a prerequisite. So zip it about that, and I don't think people understand that enough. Is like, there's a lot of logistics here, because you want to see an entertaining fight. I have 2 bad nights, I could be out of a job. And if I have 3, it's for certain, and people don't understand that, so it wasn't one of those things. I didn't put my foot down and say it's got to be, but I said, is there any way that we could do this next week so we can have a couple days to adjust, and we know there's going to be a fight come Saturday. We're 3 days away from weigh-in day, and we know nothing. We just have this prospective name. If we don't have a contract signed, I'm not getting on an airplane. That's foolish.
Well, you can't get on an airplane because look at this hat. Look at this hat. It says Dad Tired. So where are you getting this hat from? Is this a homespun one, or are you getting it from some brand that you love?
Yeah, it's another podcast.
Oh, wait, hold on.
No.
Wait, you bring another podcast onto this show, this holy ground?
It's more of a brand, because they do like conferences and stuff too. So we'll say it's a brand. It's a brand.
And they've got merch. You're bringing other people. I don't see you showing up on other shows with a Grappling Hour t-shirt.
And if you use my promo code, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. I didn't even realize what you were doing on here. And here's my dumb idiot host observing nature of, oh, what are you wearing? That's a nice hat. Tell me, it's another show. You dare bring another show onto this after what you've done to me. I like the fact that we speak about this, and I occasionally do this to fighters who I'm pretty good with, because they have to have a pretty good sense of humor. And I think if you'll recall, what was the exact wording that I told you if you appeared on another show instead of mine?
It wasn't a positive connotation. I can't remember what the threat was,
Oh
but
no, it was just I will fight you and I don't want to
that's
fight
what it
you.
was. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I would prefer not to fight you because it would be very bad for me, but I will. And you know that fighters have a good sense of humor when it doesn't even faze them. They just go, okay. And I like, that's my favorite reaction because the ones that really get into it is I go, oh no, I actually got myself into a worm here. They're really mad about this. But for the most part, everybody has like a pretty good sense of humor and being like, all right, I'll do your dumb show. All right, fine.
It's
So
the I always say this. It's the lower level like regional fights that everybody's a jerk. You go to the UFC, everybody with the exception of like one jerk is really nice, you know? And you go to like these regional shows, you're like, I'll be there cornering someone and some like 125 is staring at me like, dude, you gotta just calm down. Like this is not how it's gonna if you get where you think you're gonna go, I promise you're not gonna fit in because they're gonna hate you. Like
yeah.
that is not how this is. Everyone's very secure in themselves.
Speaking of which, you ended up securing this rear naked choke, and it was pretty impressive. Obviously, we can talk a little bit about the lead up into the fight, but I was very interested to hear from your perspective how that fight went down.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was really well rounded. We kind of knew that from what we saw, the little bit of footage we had, from his PFL fight and stuff. We knew he was a good boxer. We knew he stood with that stance kind of turned in. So the plan was to kick his lead leg a lot. I like a good calf kick. And then the last 2 seconds of the last round of the last sparring session of camp, I was like, I'm going to put a stamp on this and threw a low kick on my training partner and completely cracked my shin through my shin guard and couldn't, there was 2 seconds left. So it ended. I hobbled out of the cage, laid down next to the cage and was like rolling around. I'm like, okay, well, this isn't good. So then when we got there on fight week, I'm like, let me test it out and see how it's healed. I did a bunch of needling and cold plunge, everything, and like bounced no shin guard very lightly off my teammate's leg and crumbled in the warm up room on Tuesday. And I was like, well, that goes out the window. So it's like, all right, we're going to have to box him for sure. But it was just pressure him and see where it goes. I'm really confident in my ability anywhere. I fought good strikers now and I stood with them. I fought good grapplers. But of course, me being me, if there's a chance to put it on the floor, we're going to do that, especially when we're a little compromised. So I ended up landing that left hook early and then he backed up. He stood on the fence. He kind of hesitated. So I shot in. And then that was the beginning of definitely feeling a little more superior on the ground than him for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about this shin because now that I know this information, it does go into my world of grappling, of which I think to myself, oh, so you have a body triangle. That seems harder when your shin is maybe a little more compromised, and yet it didn't look that way. It just looked like you being like, well, this is a gift. Thank you, everybody. My body triangle is quite good. I don't mind squeezing it here. But again, as somebody with not as good of a body triangle, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I kind of need my shin. Otherwise, this ain't happening. So what, if at all,
It
did that
actually
impact you for it all?
It actually hurt worse. I didn't feel it in the fight, but if I would have kicked, I really think through adrenaline, I still would have had really. I was very, very afraid that I would not be disciplined and throw it and end up like on my back, hobbling on the floor, and then like get finished, or rolling around on the floor. But it was actually worse in training that Saturday and that Monday when I was drilling. It was worse grappling in a lot of ways because it would brush up against stuff, and I like to play hooks, one hook in, one hook out, and it was right above the ankle, so it was killing me. But I didn't feel it in the body triangle, so on the ground it really didn't bother me in the fight. But all throughout the week, every time we did a shakeout or a walkthrough of the game plan, it was just like, all right, this sucks. Like, I don't know what's going to happen out here, but let's just hope this adrenaline masks it. But yeah, so it was definitely great when I felt like I could really control him on the ground. And then in round two, they were talking about in the commentary how tired I was going to be from squeezing my legs. But all camp, I was just, dude, we did so much of just up and down and take down. You have to let him up and re-enter and just nonstop fight specific high output. That I really didn't even hesitate about it, where in the past I might have thought about that. And same thing with going for the choke in the second, right? He was defending really, really well. He had great hand fighting. You could tell he's a guy that kind of knows when he's in danger and when he's not. He would just keep his chin down. Very poised there. But, he let up for a second. I got into the neck, and I can't think of a time in the past, especially, as a newer guy in the UFC, where I would hit the gas with 20 seconds left instead of coasting. And I think that was the biggest thing to me that showed me, I've kind of crossed that bridge into being a vet and being comfortable in there and not doing foolish things of worrying how to conserve, but instead it's like, we're worried about trying to win. And yeah, I felt like I could have done that all night long, whether it was on the ground or on the feet. I really felt like I was in control.
You did look in control, and I was very happy because, the fights were a little bit earlier, so I was in the middle of training, and I actually missed part of the first round because one of my friends, they actually came up to me and they're like, yo, isn't Joe Solecki one of your guys? And I was like, yeah, he's one of our guys. And he's like, okay, well, are you watching his fight? And I go, yeah, I'm going to watch it when it's on. They're like, it's on now. And I go, oh, hold on, sorry. So, like, cut to me in the middle of open mat being like, shut up, everybody, hold on. And I put it on, and they're like, are you going to stop training? And I was like, I feel like Joe would want me to continue training. And so, no, I'm watching your fight, and I sit there and I look at it, and especially when I see it going more to the grappling side, I always feel very comfortable being familiar with how you grapple and knowing, like, oh, no, this is good business for us. Again, no clue, any part of the shin. I can't tell any of that sort of stuff. And now that you kind of bring it to my attention, I'm kind of like, okay, I could kind of see how that fits into a better game plan for you, and yet it didn't really phase you at all. But you get that. The question I wanted to follow this up with was, I alluded to it earlier. In the post presser, there was a gentleman who asked you, did you feel like it was better that the dude went out on his shield or that he would have tapped? And I thought you had such a great answer, which is, I mean, both equal a win. So I'm not really phased either way. Sounds good. But I just thought to myself, I was like, I don't know how much I love that as a question because you have no control over it. And I also don't think you're the guy, no offense to the person asking the question, but I don't think you're the guy to be like, did you like to see him lose consciousness? And you'd be like, yeah, I loved it. More of that, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think it gave me a better chance of getting a bonus because it was dramatic. But yeah, I don't. It doesn't do anything for me, you know. It's just everybody's so weird with that. Like, those are just these very like just bleed mentalities, you know. Like, oh, he's tough. He didn't tap. You're like, well, I mean, it's kind of foolish in a way, you know. He wasn't. It's not like he hand fought till the end. I mean, I guess he was trying to punch me, so I guess he
Sure,
was
sure.
fighting till the end. But like when you see these people that just stop defending and wait to go out, like, is that more noble? Not really. I did read something recently that said that that actually was a hindrance to your brain too, which I never thought before. That it was caused it more likely, and you actually lost your tolerance. I don't know if that's true or not, but that would be something too. But yeah, it was just one of those things where you're like, I don't know, I don't care, you know, like
You answered it well. That's what I'll say. Because I
yeah,
thought it was just an odd question. And listen, I've been on press row. I have asked the questions. I'm sure that sometimes, you're trying to get something good out of somebody. It's a good give and take. And I just thought, I was like, oh, this is not the guy for that question. And then immediately, all I could think of is I'm like, if you're training, the embarrassment that you do feel when you do go out is incomparable because I have gone out and I have immediately, like, I just remembered when I came back, the one thing I remembered yelling out to everybody to make sure everybody felt fine was, I'm okay. And I thought to myself, I was like, why would I yell that out? I just love the fact that I was like, I'm fine. You guys are okay. And I know I'm like, no, everybody knows they're okay. Nobody needs to be told they're fine. So I was just like, yeah, I just want to make sure that we limit those types of questions, especially
yeah,
to the person wearing a dad tired hat on their head. Let's ask this though. Obviously, you get that bonus. That's got to feel good. The wife is able to respond to that. You were in the process of saying you were going to go to one of either two places. Where did you end up taking the young daughter in response to that win? Because you alluded two different spots.
yeah. We went to the trampoline park. I was healthy. We were good. She loved it. I loved it. So it's fun for me. Like you go there, and there's a lot of parents that don't jump on the trampoline. They just sit and watch. And I look at them like they're sociopaths. I'm like, how do you see these and you don't want to jump and bounce and be a 5-year-old for a second, you know? We ended up going twice in 1 week. So, but now the problem is every time I look at her and say, hey, you're not like maybe, once a week she'll go to my parents' house, something. I go, hey, you don't have to go to school today. She looks at me and goes, have to go to the trampoline park. I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, that's not an every week occurrence. Like, you don't just get to go to the like every time you go to school, you don't go to school, you don't go to the trampoline park. But yeah, we went twice. It was awesome. So she loved it. I loved it. But there's no guarantees after a fight. There's a good chance we would have had to go to the Children's Museum and just sit and walk, and Dad's hobbling around. But this time we were very fortunate.
This brings up a good question, new responsible Joe Solecki. Your shin. not impacted enough to jump, not impacted enough to look at other parents and be like, what's wrong with you guys? I'm getting on this grappling. This is great. You literally were talking about the fear of hobbling, and you go, sure, more jumping on this? That shin's not part of my leg. Let's do it.
It's just on contact. It's very strange. That's what's so weird. Is like some stuff bothered it and some stuff doesn't. I've got the same thing with a hip. I've got a hip that I can walk around, I can run, I can do stuff, and then I roll over in bed at night and it feels like somebody stabbed me. Um, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's bone on bone, but it's one of those things where you're like, how can I do all these, exhausting things? I can wrestle hard, and then butterfly guard is the thing that causes the slicing pain. Like, and that's what it was. I'm like running around, jumping like a maniac, and then, heaven forbid, I graze someone passing guard. It's like incapacitated. So it makes no sense. Yeah. But maybe I got the adrenaline. Maybe I got the adrenaline for the trampoline park too. I don't know. Maybe it masked it. I'm not sure. I was
Hold on.
excited.
Hold on real quick. Shin to shin bad. Also hip bad. It's all right. I'm writing down these notes for literally no reason. It's fine.
For weaknesses.
Hey, listen, dude, you have to understand, if you're Batman and you're ever training with any meta human, aka a Superman, a Wonder Woman, you write down their weaknesses. You make sure of it. That's why every time I tell my guys, I'm like, in our group, I'm Batman. And they're like, why? Because you're like super cool. And I was like, well, yes, obviously. But also, I'm Jiu-Jitsu rich, which means I have a job. I train with all of you behemoths that are way stronger and faster than me. Thus, Superman, Wonder Woman, etc. And also, I keep files on all of you in case you guys get out of order. Then I have my like one thing to go to. I'm like, kryptonite, we gotta go. So it is my one redeeming thing. Let's discuss this. So you did put together an event. That was good. I'm very happy for you because it looked really, really successful, man. And it looks like you guys are continuing on what you've already made good on that first event, which is to give an opportunity to grapplers in an underserved area. And I noticed that you bring this crowd. You were mentioning you had so many people helping you to make it happen. I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about that event and what made this one even more special for you.
Yeah, dude, it was a blast. It's tough because I'm young, but I've been at this for almost 25 years, so I've been a part of a lot of generations in this sport that people may not realize. So it is hard for me to come out in the Instagram era and in the, I'm all for the feel good era, but like, I don't even want to say participation trophy because I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either. But in the era where like everybody seems to want like a guaranteed win, so it's really, really tough promoting, not even in the super fights. Yes. Like that can be an issue too. Like very prima donna-esque. But what I do with those people is typically just not respond to them and don't have them at the event. But what I found this time, and I'm not picking on it because I appreciate the people that came out so much. It was only a handful, out of I think we had 140 competitors. It was a great turnout, for a small event. But a lot of people, you know, it's more the parents like nitpicking for their kids about like, well, I've seen this kid, and he was in an advanced division before, and this and that. And it almost they might as well be speaking Russian to me because I don't speak Russian, FYI. So it's like one of those things where I'm like, I just like I hear it, but I don't register with it because you want mat time for your child, and like also, I bracketed everything by hand. So they're on smooth comp, but I don't have four computers and four display TVs to do that, and it is the easiest for me, and I think for the efficiency of the tournament to have the brackets ready to go in the morning and then make small adjustments. And that was the other thing was everybody has been so I don't want to say spoiled because again I appreciate everybody coming out, but it's almost like we've gotten a little softer as a jiu-jitsu culture where you're like, man, like have you gone to a Naga tournament where you have your little ID card and they call you and they bracket it right there and they call your name and you're out on the mat, so it's one of those things where we're trying to make it super affordable and everybody have a good time. But it was a lot of like, well, who's my first opponent? Who's this? Who's that? You're like, okay, I already know that you're worried about are you going to have that picture for Instagram getting your hand raised? But like, this is a competition. The root word there is compete. We're here to compete, and get our reps. It's a $50 entry fee. We're trying to have a good time. Um, all in all, it was an awesome time. And everybody was so great. But there was like three or four, kind of recurring characters throughout the day that were really concerned with that stuff. And it does make it tough because then you start to go, is the juice worth the squeeze? Are people actually enjoying this? And then you get that 6-year-old kid that comes up. There was actually a kid. I don't know. His name was Joey, and it was like 2 letters off from being Solecki. It was like Solecki or Silecki, and I'm like, literally, his mom came out and was like, "This was so much fun. Thank you so much for doing this. He had a great time. Will you sign my medal?" I was like, "Oh, yep, that's why we did it. That's why we did it." Like the kid that got maybe he didn't get first, he got silver or bronze, and he was ecstatic just to be out there. Like that's why we do it. And it's always that way. I would say 9 out of 10 people had amazing things to say, and it was a huge success. It's definitely not as rewarding for me until I get to see those moments because I'm running around all day, as when you do it too, I'm sure. But it's one of those things where you're like, did anybody even have a good time? And then you see all the pictures later on tagged on Instagram, like, oh, okay, people had a great time. It's just the negative ones are the loudest. But we're gonna keep improving, keep chipping away at it. And what I really love is the super fights at night. The fact that our local talent got to come out in front of a packed house. I mean, there was a couple hundred people there. It was pretty spectacular. So we're gonna keep going. I'd like to get some new mats eventually. I'd like to we keep the production up. We got the camera crew there this time. We got the lighting figured out, and I'd like to get this pitched to something a little bigger and really create a little opportunity for this hub down here. The coolest thing was there was a Fuji tournament scheduled for Wilmington, the exact town we're in, that day, and I was like, oh man, this is gonna hurt us. This is gonna hurt us, and they ended up having to postpone their winter classic till summer. And I was like, all right, one win for the small guys. Like, let's go. This is great. So the whole community came together. It was a blast. It was awesome. Yeah, it was great. And I think the one thing I want to keep encouraging in our tournament is competition. So what I did with the kids, especially, and some of the adults, was like, if there was a chance to be in 2 brackets because you were on the edge or this and that, like, I put you in it. That way you're getting 2. And what I had to explain to the parents was like, well, can they do this or that? I said, if there was a chance for it to happen safely, it's already been done. Like, otherwise, there's just no comparable matchup. I was like Oprah with the refunds. Like, oh, I'm sorry that no one showed up for this, no one showed up for that. Like, can they please? I'm like, I'm promising you, I would love to keep your $50, but what I would love more is your child to be safe and either get the experience they paid for or you get your money back because it's not worth it, man. Like, that's the thing is, like, obviously I want to do this and I want to have another avenue to provide for my family too, but not at the expense of someone else. I've been very fortunate lately, especially like getting the bonus and stuff. Like, I'm not going to keep someone's $50 that their parents worked hard for if no one showed up or their opponent backed out that was the right size. So we were trying to do the right thing, and some people complained and some people really appreciated it. And that's all we can do is try to be ethical and give them a good time. And it seemed like the majority had that. So definitely a success, and there'll definitely be a third one.
So suck it, Fuji. That is quoted. No, I'm just kidding. You know what it is? It's I always told people, I'm like, the hardest part about planning a tournament as somebody who proficiently calendars is I sit there and I always look, and there's never a good weekend. Like, there's always a complication. There's always something that would happen. And I tend to be very good on being like, take this weekend now. And they're like, why? And I go, because take that weekend now. I promise you, if you wait 2 weeks, somebody's going to announce it, and then they're going to come in, and it's going to be really hard. And the people that you think are going to turn out, and then sure as shit, like, that stuff happens. And I'm always like, listen, guys, I don't mind having to grit and bear it, but it's a harder marketing game. And obviously, when you're in that space, there's an element of some competition. But the whole reason we put these things on, if I'm speaking out of turn, you can tell me, but is that you want people to have opportunities that maybe they aren't afforded in other rule sets or other things. Because as you were mentioning, even this weekend when I competed, I had 4 matches back to back to back, and they were on different mats. So when I appeared back and forth, they didn't care. And I was just like, that's my fate. It is what it is. Like, I'm not going to complain. It's good matches. But like, in the moment, my team comes up to me and they're like, yo, how are you feeling? And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. And, later when I look back at the footage and I was like, oh, I did not look fine. I look hilariously tired. And I have a good laugh about it because I'm like, nobody got hurt. Nothing bad happened. It was just, it's funny in retrospect that you get to put those things out. So when you have somebody like you putting other people into 2 divisions, it's like, hey, listen, I'm making a good thing for you. And when you talk about bracketing by hand, I found it helped my memory when I was bracketing by hand, so that if I did transfer that to a computer, I knew exactly who the competitors were. So I knew if anything changed, I had spent the time reading those names and going like, no, 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 that kid's in a different category. He's in a weight category that's 10 pounds up. And I think there's a huge benefit, especially when you're putting these tournaments together and you can do it by hand, that if at the very least you get lost, you have a paper version of something that you can go back to. So
Yep.
I can't tell people how important that is.
And we rolled through 140 competitors.
So good.
First match was at 11:03. We announced because the rules meeting went a little long. We were out of there by like 3:15. You know, I'm like, guys, like, and people are like, oh, when am I gonna go? I'm like, guys, like, I don't want to be that guy like uphill both ways to school, but like, you guys have no idea what this used to be and what a tournament was. Like, even at an in-house tournament, you would wait hours. Like, dude, how many times have you been in a Naga tournament and they're rolling up the mats while your advanced division is going? You know, like, people have no clue. And you're like, man, like, I said to me and my old coach were talking, John Hassett, and we were messaging. It was the same day as the NCAAs. And I said, man, in this day and age, like, Dan Gable must go to an event and feel like he landed on Mars and be like, I don't understand anything anymore because like they're raising both kids' hands over there. This person's crying about a 1 pound, you know. But all in all, it was fantastic. I don't want to sound insensitive. I just, you know, there's stuff that you could definitely. But I'm trying to keep the essence of competition in the competition. I think the best way to do that is issue refunds. You know, I'm not going to watch anybody do anything. But I had one guy who was complaining about a student in the intermediate division and was like, well, I've seen that opponent in another thing. I said, okay, the best I can do is refund your student if you're not comfortable. She already had a match. They lined up in the semifinals. He's like, well, I wanted to get mat time. I'm like, this is the way for mat time, but I will refund it if you want to refund it and get mat time. And he's like, well, why can't she go down to beginner? I said, because the same thing you're complaining about right now is going to happen to the beginner competitors because this is an intermediate competitor. And he's like, well, she's only been training this long. I'm like, if she registered for 1 to 3 years, then that's where she belongs. You're doing the same thing, and it's just, you know, being perpetrated along the way. It's just, it's such a weird thing to get people to be like empathetic when I understand competition has to be about you. So it was a very interesting time. You know, you're starting to see that era is taking over more and more and more with the like, I want the guaranteed win, especially in the super fights too. But it was great. We had a lot of people wanting to test themselves. I mean, we even had, so in our co-main, we had a guy move down here who was from California and also Long Island, New York, is Zach LeCates. He's placed at all the IBJJF stuff, won the worlds at brown belt, pans, and was like, hey, like, I would hop in. I'm like, dude, that's a huge honor. And then in our main event, Jamie Pickett hopped in, who's in the UFC. So, and he reached out up to me because I wanted to actually get him on there, but he's coming off a fight. I'm like, I don't want you to think I'm trying to capitalize on the fact that you just had a big fight with a lot of eyes on it.
Yep.
And he reached out and was like, oh, can you still compete on Saturday? I'm like, compete. I would love to have you as our main event. So like, it was super humbling to have a lot of high level guys come out from all over the Carolinas and, you know, guys that have won a lot bigger stuff that were willing to hop in. So all in all, it was spectacular. The jiu-jitsu was great. The super fights were awesome. It was a blast, you know, and it's just fun to be a part of it. I was out there reffing because I wanted to, not for the points ones because I had to run around and bracket and stuff, but for the super fights. I'm like, I want the best seat in the house. I'm like, there's no job for me. It's fight to win rules. I don't have to enforce anything, you know? So I'm just sitting there looking at like, why is this foot there? This guy's good. Like it was a treat. It was a real treat. It was really fun.
That's awesome, man. I did hear them say at that post presser as well. They were like, yo, are we going to see you grapple more? Are we going to see you back in competition? So I understand that they've already asked you that, but I guess the question is, who are you trying to grapple against? Because I know you mentioned one name that you don't want, and I understand that. But other than that, you've been pretty much like, give me whoever, whenever, but it's kind of hard to match you up because I can't just have some rando going up against you. That's kind of fun, I guess, for them. But what about the rest of us? Where do we see the fun? And does it become an exclusive for All In? Have you signed an exclusive talent deal with All In? Or do you have the ability to look elsewhere?
I have to check with the promoter real quick. Let me grab him. Oh, yeah, we're good. I'm good to go anywhere I want. Yeah, you know, I did joke that I would never grapple my own event. And then I said, when people started pulling out, I'm like, all right, the next person that pulls out has to grapple me. I'm grappling every single person that has no opponent. I'm going to be like Jackie Moon at halftime, wrestling the bear. Like this is the show must go on. But no, I will grapple. Dude, here's the thing. Like, the more I get to train with like sport jiu-jitsu guys here and there, what a privilege it is. You know, I'll jokingly like talk to one of my coaches or friends. I'll be like, yo, your boy can still hang in jiu-jitsu, you know? So like, I keep up with all the latest stuff. I like to train, so I would hop in just about anywhere. I think I would like it to be something that would serve my career well, of course, but I'm also a sucker for competition. So I've hopped into stuff even locally in the last like year and a half. We did like a little quintet thing and just different stuff. But as long, obviously the higher profile stuff is always great, like Fury Grappling and stuff like that. But yeah, whatever, I'll do it. I don't care. I just want to get back to competing some. And if I'm not going to fight until after the baby comes, I'm not sure yet. Waiting to hear a timeline, but that's something I would like to do to stay active and stay acquainted with my adrenaline. Keep controlling it and keep staying in competition mode. So it's always fun to have a little, the carrot on the stick for the horse, and me being the horse there chasing something. So yeah, we'll see.
I love the fact that you've also broken this down to its core elements of like, baby fight. I got to figure this out. It'll dictate to me what's happening next. Like most people are saying like, ooh, I don't know. We're going to figure out if I got a baby or if I got to fight first. So, but either way, it is the fight life. I want to ask this as we start to wind down, which is since we last spoke, you have started your own podcast, which I guess is fine. That's actually why I said I would have second exclusive rights, because I thought there's no way I could take this man away from his own podcast. And I knew, I was like, well, okay, listen, if Ariel calls, it's different. But I figured your podcast should have your first exclusive look at you. Did your podcast get your first exclusive look? Because I saw they had a reaction, but have you made another podcast where you talked about it since?
No, because there's a lot happening right now, so we're really unsure about our future. I've got some decisions to make here coming up, just for my own future and stuff. So regarding long-term stuff and, not to be super vague, but to be super vague. I've got some decisions to make about some stuff. So until we kind of get to the bottom of that, then that'll kind of lead into, what are we doing with this? So unfortunately, we've kind of been put on ice for a little bit until we get to the bottom of all that and, just some other stuff going on. So when we figure that out, then we'll get that interview. It might be a little late by then to be like, hey, the fight came and went 7 months ago, but yeah, we've done some good stuff on there, touching gloves, and it's always a blast getting together. I mean, they're my friends, we're all buddies. We train together, we go to church together, so we do a lot of things in the same circle, so it's just like three goofballs hanging out. We have a good time. But yeah, so just trying to figure out some stuff, and then once we figure that stuff out, then we'll get moving with the are we going to come back and run it long term, or what's going to happen?
Fair enough. And I mean, congrats to you guys for even starting it. It is very difficult to do it. And as somebody who does this regularly, the scheduling, I think people don't always know, can be a little bit of a beast, especially if you're a fighter and you have long-term things that you're doing. But I feel like for a lot of the stuff that you could be looking at doing after you're done, which still means a way, is just good to get those reps out now before you become like a DC and you're like, why do people dislike me about this opinion? And it's like, well, that's how it works on this side. When you have your words, people suddenly disguise and not disguise how much they like or dislike your words. So I think that impact that you can have when you realize like, oh, not everybody felt that way. Okay. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I think it's super important to get the reps. Man, I always listen to stuff like that, even since I was in like, I had no indication I'd be doing this for a career like that, but I always thought I would be, which makes no sense. I was just a dreamer. But even then, like I would listen to people talking about like guys saying they took acting classes and this and that. And there was ways to hijack the conversation and get what you wanted to talk about still across, like answer the question, but then also add your own stuff. And I always used to listen to stuff like that, even down to like talking to myself all the time as like a teenager, like interviewing yourself, but like, I think that's right, because then you don't want to be the guy where the first time you've had cameras in front of your face is your UFC debut and you say something stupid that you're going to be labeled that guy forever, So no, it's exactly that. And with the scheduling, you're 100% right. Is like, for me, this was the first time, fighting is selfish. Everybody says that, but it's selfish with the best intentions. Like if you're taking care of your family or something, but this is the first time where I really had to be about me. Like I disappeared for 10 weeks from all my obligations, like, and that's what I was joking about in some of the podcasts. We're like, how's celebrating the fight been? I'm like, I just came back to a pile of neglect for 10 weeks, on my desk. Like I got to start chipping away at this pile, whether it was a tournament, whether it was my own family, I wasn't neglecting them, but you know, even that, like, even that, honestly, man, like, I'm still trying to get back in my daughter's good graces. As foolish as that sounds, she's 2.5. But like, you know, like legit, like even this morning I was texting my wife and I'm like, man, like this is crazy. Like she doesn't want me in the morning, you know, and people don't see that kind of stuff. I was home a decent amount, but I was gone Tuesday through Friday, you know, a couple nights a week when I'm the morning guy. I've been the morning guy for her entire life. And all of a sudden it's mommy taking her to school every morning or my parents or whatever, you know. And now in the morning, almost every morning, she's crying for my wife, you know. It's one of those things where people don't see that crap. And then you come home and you're like, plus trying to juggle a podcast, plus trying, and it's not, they're all good things to have to try to juggle. But you go, man, like even one of the amateurs I work with, Juan Lopez, who's fighting this next weekend here in town. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I had to walk away for 8.5 to 10 weeks from your training, you know. Uh, how many pad sessions did you get? None with me, you know. And you're like, man, like you actually had to be selfish, and that weighs on other people besides you. So yeah, I mean, the podcast was also kind of a casualty of that, being like, hey guys, I can do this time or no time at all. And I'm not trying to be a diva. It's just all I got, you know, and they were super accommodating, but you still feel bad, you know, because you're like, man, like it's almost like me acting like I'm more important than the podcast or you guys. And I know that's not the case, you know, so it was tough, but now we're out of camp. It's a little more flexible. So maybe we'll get going again.
Good for you guys. Well, give my best to your guys. Obviously, I know how hard this is, and they seem like really really good friends. And I thought that was what came across when I did listen to it, was that you know you could feel the bond, you could feel like an actual friendship. So I felt like I got to know a little bit about them and your crew that you hang out with. So compliments to them.
Yeah, I got to see a video of them. Someone recorded it of them all reacting when it happened live. Dude, it was like, that was cool, man. You know, for me, it's like I always, like, I didn't have a lot of friends, you know, growing up. No, not like the sob story, but like I was the kid that would definitely sit at the lunch table with the one person I could recognize and cling to, or no one, you know, with headphones in. And, you know, you watch stuff like, for me, I think of Rocky when he knocks him down in the first one and they pan to the bar that he always hung out at and everyone's jumping up and down at the TV. Like, you just want to be in that position to make people feel good for a couple of seconds, you know? And when you see stuff like that, especially when it's people you know and care about, man, there's no better feeling like that. So, yeah, they're great friends for sure.
That's what's up. All right, man. I want to give you an opportunity to shout out anybody you want to, anybody who helped you with the camp, anybody who helped you, I guess, at All In, anybody who helped you, period, whatever
Yeah.
you were doing there, because it sounded like you had a lot of things going on. So, camera's on you. Go ahead and feel free to give a shout out to that or any sponsors that you got, sir.
Yeah, just man, everybody that helped with the tournament for sure. My buddy Matt and his family, and my buddy Brennan Hyde, who's got a fight coming up and took time away, and his family helped. His little 5-year-old son is the only person I know that likes to clean up and roll out the mats. He was looking forward to it. When we're all tired, he was laying down exhausted, like 11 o'clock at night. He popped up like the Undertaker and was like, "It's time to clean the mats up." And he's trying to carry him to the U-Haul and stuff. So a huge shout out to them for all the help, and all the guys at Ref. My brother helped, you know, run a lot of stuff at the tournament too. So I really appreciate them. On the fight front, or just the life front, my wife, of course, who we already talked about, is just I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't with her, for sure. Some days I could look, fight day, I could look at her and say, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you. But most days, that's a great thing. I appreciate the heck out of her. Of course, she knows that. Man, she surprised me at the fight. That was amazing. I was cutting weight. I thought I was having a hallucination. That was incredible. And I needed that. Like, it had just been a long camp, you know? And of course, you know, arguably the biggest for this last fight, especially, is our head coach, Jeff Jimmo. You know, training me every single day, letting me stay in his house, cooking the meals. Like he literally did everything. The strength and conditioning. He is one of a kind. And like, man, if you ever see his gym page and stuff, like, doesn't advertise, doesn't recruit. He's not trying to make a quick buck, not trying to get in the pictures. Like, just one of the very last few like genuine martial artists. Like, you know, he talks about that documentary Jiro Dreams of Sushi, and I watched it and I texted him like, "Oh, I know why you like this documentary. It's you. Like, you're just about the art, like actually doing your job every day." So man, a tremendous thank you to him and everyone at Jimmo, everyone at Salted Dog Jiu-Jitsu, and John Salter, who of course is fighting here soon next weekend. Um, and everybody at Fitness Edge MMA. You know, I still go down there a lot and get my sparring in and everything. Chris Gallard for all the boxing training. So yeah, it's just been awesome, man. I wouldn't be able to do it without all of those people, but yeah, I really am thankful. People have no idea what it takes to even make it through all that, you know, and get to the fight. Because whether it's an injury or this and that, the travel, the whole nine, it's just all the support really, really means a lot. So yeah, I appreciate all of them.
That's what's up. And that fight between Salter and Aaron Jeffrey is going to be a banger. If you guys are not paying attention, that is a very, very good fight. I cannot believe it. We're friends with both guys, and I was like, oh, we got to go Switzerland on this one. Sorry, guys.
100%. Yeah. What's funny is we sat on the bus with Jeffrey's team, like Niagara Top Team guys, and we didn't really know. We were talking. Not that it would matter because it's like, who gives a crap?
Yeah.
But super nice guys, man. We were talking to them on the way to weigh-ins, on the way back. Super nice dudes. Sound like they have a really special thing up there, but they don't have a lot of MMA either, and they're growing a real special thing too. So yeah, it's just a sport, man. It's like one of the best man win type deal. Hopefully it's our guy, but yeah, of course.
I mean, and again, they're matched up for a reason. So you look at that and you say, like, no, that's designed to give you the best bang for your buck. Like, they're very well matched. It'll be very fun to see how it plays out. And I just, as a fight fan, have a lot of excitement because it's good platforms for either one of them. So, like, at that point, good fight. Good work, gents. I hope that's good.
Yep.
I wanted to close with this because I heard it in the presser and I wanted to get the context behind it because I love this phrase. You mentioned that win or lose, or a lot of the time, especially when you win, though, you basically go to your team, and correct me if I heard this right or wrong, but it sounds like you said when you get a really good result like that you just got in your last fight, that you say, best job in the business. Is that what you legitimately say to each other behind the scenes, or is that just something that you like popped up for this particular camp? Because I'd love to know more as to where the origins of that came from and why in particular you say that.
Oh, this camp, it was new. This camp, I love my job. Like, I've always enjoyed it, but that particular phrase is a Scott Holtzman thing. So he'd always scream it out after fights. He'd scream it out in training. Some days he'd scream, "Best job I ever had." And to my understanding, I just pieced it together, but I'm pretty sure it's where he had to have gotten it from, is the movie Fury, when they're in the tank and they're in all these firefights and all that. They'll always scream out, like, "Best job I ever had, best job I ever had." And then the final scene, when they're getting ready to be ambushed the next day, they're all kind of telling their story about, like, what they liked about it, this and that, and then Brad Pitt is like their head guy, their leader, and he looks. I don't think you even heard him say it at that point up until, and he just kind of takes a drag of his cigarette. And he looks, and he just looks at all of them as like, best job I ever had. And you're like, man, like, even on its worst day, when they're about to be ambushed the next day, like, to their core, these guys would not want to be anywhere else, and that's what I really appreciated this camp, because this camp was it was full immersion. I was up there and all I had to do was train. All I got to do was train, and then sit by myself, and then train, and then be by myself, and then train. And you find out if you like something or not. And I love it. And that's the thing, is like one of the days, I think I had 3 weeks left or 2 weeks left, and I finished the sparring session. One of my teammates came over and was like, "Man, like, 3 more weeks and you're done." And I was like, I don't want to be done. I don't want to be anywhere else in the world other than home with my wife and daughter. If I could have my cake and eat it too, that would be ideal. But I'm not trying to get through this. I'm in this, and I'm enjoying being in this. The same way in the fight, I used to try to get through fights. How quick can I get this guy out of there? Which we still want to get out of there and get the win. But it was because I don't want to feel that tired. I don't want to feel that panic. I don't want him to have a chance to, all this nonsense. It's like, no, you're in a fight. Let's go get in a fight. Let's enjoy this process, And yeah, I think it's one of those things where you're like, walking out, this is the best job I ever had. Not just because I submitted him, Alex De Silva, my ribs out, and we're swinging in the third round. Best job I ever had. Like, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And that's the appreciation that's come with, 21 fights now.
That's great. I might end up stealing that. So I'm letting you know that ahead of time, because I think that's a great phrase.
I stole it too. I stole it. So
yeah, but here's the thing. I'm now on tape asking you for the context, and if you hear my guy say it, then you might be like, "Why are you guys? Do you know Rafa Esparza?" And they're gonna be like, "Oh, no, we don't know, Coach. I mean, that guy." So I just want to make sure it's very well documented here. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna close this out. I'm gonna say bye to you off air, but we have to do the other thing too. So that's just my code for I'm closing this part out. I will see you in a second. My thanks to you, Joe. I mostly forgive you now. I've thought about it. It took me this time that we had together to get there, but I feel like I'm there now.
Man, anytime. This is always a privilege.
No, it's not. Shut up. All right, I'm getting you out. Joe Solecki, everybody. Hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I just want to say, if you aren't a subscriber, go find us, HY.PAGE /GRAPPLINGHOUR. Become a member. You can get early access for $5, or for $10 you can see the extra premium stuff, one of which that we are going to do right now, and I'll tell you what it is. We're actually going to talk about steroids, okay? You guys love steroids. Give me money for steroids, because guess what? No, that sounds wrong. Don't give me money for steroids. Give me money to hear things about steroids. Anyway, I guess that's what I'm saying. And here's the thing. You want to talk about it. This has been something that you guys have been in the Jiu-Jitsu forums and the chats talking about. More plates, more dates. Oh, is Nicky Rod natural? Is he Natty Rod? Is he Nicky Fraud? All of those dumb puns that you guys come up with. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And you can see fight breakdowns, potentially even some of my own matches from a recent competition, because I'll roast myself because I think that's funny. I have good self-esteem. Anyway, that's what I got for you guys. My love and appreciation to all of you guys for your support. You can find us on all the major social media platforms at Grappling Hour. Add us, like, subscribe, all that stuff. It means the world to me. That's all I got for you today. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.